Welcome to today's episode of What Does the Law Say? Before we move on, please like, share, subscribe, and drop your comments and your questions in the comment section. Thank you. Can you believe it? We are 10 episodes away already. Okay, so this is the 10th episode. We have done 9 episodes. Thank you very much for liking. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Even if you only watch one episode, thanks for watching one episode. Thanks for watching all 9 episodes. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful. This show wouldn't have gone this far without you, my viewers, my family, my friends, and everybody. Thank you very much. In today's episode, I will answer all questions that people have dropped from the first episode till the 9th episode. So I'll do a little recap of those episodes and as well answer the questions that people asked, so as to benefit all those that didn't watch that episode or benefit those that didn't get to read the answers to those questions. So our first episode was on the importance of a lawyer, and then we looked at the relevance and the importance of a lawyer in your day-to-day transactions. We look at the fact that you need a lawyer to help you draft your agreement. You need a lawyer to help you review your agreements, draft your contract, review your contract. We also talked about the fact that it's best that you employ a lawyer now to prevent you from making costly mistakes. Then go ahead, make those mistakes, and then you have to employ a lawyer. So if you need a lawyer to help you prevent, any costly mistakes. And that's why in the medical world, they'll say prevention is better than cure. If you haven't seen the episode on the importance of a lawyer, that was the first episode. You can go back and then watch it and learn something. And you can also drop your questions. I would go back there to answer them. In the second episode, we talked about marriages. We talked about a void marriage, what can make a marriage void or non-existent. We looked at the licensed place of worship. We looked at the age of consent in Nigeria, where we established that the age of consent to marry in Nigeria is 21 and 18 under the Child Rights Act, 21 under the Marriage Act, and 18 under the Child Rights Act. And that if you are below the age of 21, that is between 18 and 21, you must seek your parental consent or guardian's consent. Due to the fact that it has been a pandemic, I noticed that people have been joining weddings, on Zoom, on Skype. You say, I want to attend a wedding on Zoom, or I want to attend a wedding on Skype. And, which there is no problem with that if you are watching them joining 2 people, or you are watching a marriage going on. There's nothing wrong with that. But where I would like to clarify is those that are actually getting married and are getting married through Zoom or through Skype. So we're just invited guests. There's no problem. You can watch your wedding, watch your marriage as you contract it through Zoom. We don't have any problem. But you cannot be getting married. The bride is in Kafancha. The groom is in Kutuwenje. It's not possible. Under the Marriage Act and the Matrimonial Causes Act, you must get married in a licensed place of worship. We talked about that in the episode. So if you haven't seen the episode, you can also go back and learn something. So the question I got as regards this episode, somebody asked that, what does the law say about a deceased spouse? What's the law when the living spouse decides to get married? So the law provides that if Mr. A and Mrs. A are married and Mr. A passes away, Mrs. A can contract another marriage. She can decide to remarry because a marriage to Mr. A doesn't exist anymore by reason of death. If Mr. A did not die, Mrs. A cannot go and contract another marriage somewhere else, except it's a divorce and those other reasons we mentioned in the episode. This person wants to find out about what the law says as regards the living spouse. The living spouse is allowed under the law to get married to another person because her marriage to her husband that is deceased no longer exists by reason of death. In episode 3, we talked about powers of the police to search you. In recent times, we've had more issues every day about police brutality and harassment, especially through SARS. And people want to know how they should handle the situation. What are the rights available to them? In that episode 3, we talked about the rights of a citizen, and you have the right to remain silent. you have the right to a legal practitioner. We also talked about how you can handle the matters. In the issue where police wants to just stop you on the road to search you, how you should handle it. Gently answer their questions, and if there are questions that you need not answer, you don't have to, but then insist and make them know that you are aware of your rights. Someone wanted to know whether we could take the police to court if they violated our rights, and the answer to that is yes. If any of your fundamental rights is being violated or has been violated, you can sue the police force and the officer that violated your rights. Usually you do that through your legal practitioner. And good news for us, our president just passed the new Nigerian Reform Bill, and so we have a new Police Act 2020. I would be reviewing that act in subsequent episodes, so watch out for that. In episode 4, we talked about the rights and the obligations of a tenant. This is a very interesting area that people want to know about. A lot of people are tenants in Lagos, in Nigeria, and they really want to find out what their rights and obligations are as a tenant. And so we looked at the fact that as a tenant, you have a right to privacy, you have a right to quiet and peaceable enjoyment of the premises. These are the rights available to you as a tenant, and you're supposed to enforce those rights and ensure that your rights are not violated. In case you missed episode 4 and you are a tenant, go back and watch it and learn something as regards your rights and obligations as a tenant. Pray from episode 4. In episode 5, we discussed about the rights and the obligations of a landlord. There are many landlords, just as there are many tenants, and we wanted to balance the equation. Just like we had discussed about the rights of a tenant, we have to move on to discuss about the rights and obligations of a landlord. And we stated that the landlord has a right to issue notice to quit. We also stated the fact that the landlord has duties that he must ensure that he fulfills. If you also haven't seen that episode, go back and watch the episode. You would learn a lot. So we have questions from this episode. The first question was, a person said, can a tenant refuse to pay electric bill because there is no meter? Hey, how do you even pay for something that you are not getting? Because it's the reason why you live in that house is because you signed an agreement, you paid, you did all the necessary things. That's how you can have that premises. So you cannot pay for an electric bill if there is no meter. Recently, the NERC commissioner stated that a landlord outstanding electricity bill cannot be enforced on a tenant, and a judge also ruled that if there's an outstanding bill for the landlord, he cannot enforce that outstanding electricity bill on a tenant. To answer that person's question, you can't pay for an electricity bill where there's no meter, you want to pay for bill. You cannot pay for an electricity that you did not make use of. So another person asked a question on our YouTube page and said that, does insurance against loss or damage cover for theft in cases where tenants may have lost items due to theft? So in the episode on the rights and obligations of the landlord, we stated that the landlord must insure the premises, insure against fire, insure against flood. The question is trying to find out whether the insurance done by the landlord would cover the issue of theft. If the landlord will do any insurance, it will be done, for the premises. You insure against any damage, maybe fire, maybe flood, against that premises. Not that so if you insure for someone's laptop in 2020, when another tenant comes in 2022, you say, we are insuring against your phone and your laptop because they steal. No. If you want to do that, insurance can be done by yourself. However, there are agreements. You can have an agreement with your landlord that you should insure against some things, but your personal items, the landlord cannot insure against your personal items. Moving on, another person asked that, so after paying rent, are you saying it is unlawful for the landlord to say we should contribute for repairs? So in that same episode on the rights and obligations of the landlord, we discussed that the obligation of the landlord is to ensure repairs and any other thing that needs to be fixed on the premises or in the building. Now, so in the instance where something has gotten bad or something needs repair and the landlord says that you should contribute, that has to be based on your agreement to contribute. If you do not have an agreement to be repairing things, then you should not contribute to repair. If you want to contribute, that's left to you. But if it's something that you probably use collectively in the house, that you all were using or you all, created, maybe you might want to contribute for repairs, but that's personal to you. Thirdly, someone asked also under this topic of the rights and obligations of the landlord that who is responsible for the payment of land use charge, the landlord or the tenant? Very simple question, very simple answer. The landlord is responsible for the payment of land use charge in a landlord and tenant agreement. Lastly, under this episode, someone asked that if a tenant doesn't renew his rent when it expires, how will he be evicted? So in both episodes on the rights and obligations of the landlord and also of the tenant, we discussed that the notice to quit is meant to be issued to a tenant, and the landlord has that right to issue a notice to quit. However, in the instance where the tenant is owing rent, or he doesn't want to renew his rent, or his rent has expired and he's still on the premises, at that point in time, he will be served the 7 days notice of owner's intention to recover possession. So do not stay in ignorance and say that, well, Arike said I'm entitled to 6 months notice to quit in a yearly tenancy, so you're going to wait and not pay your rent. No. Also, it is not your duty as a landlord to engage in self-help. So if anybody doesn't pay your rent, you serve them notice of owners, a 7 days notice of owner's intention to recover possession. If they refuse to leave, you bring an action against them. Episode 6 to episode 9 was a very interesting episode. We had a guest, Mr. Segun Akiyode, who is an HR expert, and he discussed a lot about employment matters and the law. We looked at the issues of employment contracts. We looked at how to get justice for unjust termination. We also looked at notice periods and working hours. And lastly, the most recent episode, we looked at the length of a maternity leave and paternity leave. And these episodes were very interesting. If you haven't seen these episodes, go back and watch them and learn something about employment matters and the law. On this series, on the HR series, we had a question. Someone asked that she would like to know if a recorded presentation of a verbal offer by the potential employee is valid in cases where the employer didn't include an offer prior to the already employed staff's resumption. So Mr. Segun Akiyode answered this question from the point of view of a HR personnel. And he said that a verbal offer is dicey even if recorded. So don't tell them to record your verbal offer. As that recording can be contended legally if permission was not granted before the recording was made. Yes, just like Mr. Akiyode said, a signed written agreement for an offer of employment is better and is safer. You can ascertain it. It can be a proof or evidence if it is ever needed. So make sure that you don't fall into that trap of, oh, I'm looking for employment, and then you just take any agreement, you don't sign it, or they don't sign it, and then later on you have to, get into trouble. And to avoid stories that touch, just ensure that your agreement is written, is signed, and it is in your favor. Thank you very much for watching today's episode. A new season starts next week and it's going to be very, very interesting. But if you have any area of law, any gray area you would like me to discuss or shed more light on or explain to you the provisions of the law, please send in your questions, send in your comments, send in those areas. You can send them to Arike Modile on Facebook, Arike Modile on Instagram, and Arike Modile on Twitter, and I will gladly respond to you. See you next week.